Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crime Family. We're going to be doing part 2 of our Jonbenet Ramsey case discussion. So if you listen to part 1, then you'll already know that we kind of give you a broad overview of the case and the major people involved. And we just discussed like some of the major pieces in the case, like the ransom note, the autopsy findings, the 911 call, and then also some random other pieces of information that were very interesting. So we're going to be continuing on our conversation. We're going to be going over the three main theories in this case and talking a little bit about the pros and cons, or the things that help that theory and things that go against that theory. We'll also be taking some listener suggestions and comments and also possible theories. So we'll be reading some of those for you as well. So we're very excited to have you for part 2 of our finale episode. So thanks for joining us. Let's get started. So we still have Jennifer here with us for part 2. So welcome again, Jennifer.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Yes. So like I said, we're going to be just kind of going over the 3 main theories, like that, the 3 overwhelming theories that are like the 3 main, the ones that everyone talks about. That's obviously definitely one of those 3, I would assume. So why don't we just start off with the intruder theory? And that's that somebody came in, broke into the house through that like broken window and wrote the letter inside the house and did all of that stuff. And not someone connected to the family. Like, Jennifer, do you have any thoughts about like that theory?
I'm definitely not 100% keen on that theory. There is evidence to suggest, like we were talking before, the fingernails evidence and the underwear evidence, even though that could possibly be in a factory as well. But it's very obvious that if somebody entered through the basement window, that the cobwebs would have been disturbed.
Yes, like there is the crime scene video and photos show that there was a cobweb that was intact in one of the corners of that window, and kind of the way it opened, it didn't open up all of the way fully, so someone would have kind of had to like bend down and like kind of get through, and it would be like very snug fit. So they said that it would be hard to like have the cobweb still be intact if somebody had come in through that window. So that was kind of something that goes against that theory. Steph, Kate, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, they also said there was like no really obvious sign of like disturbance on the outside of like the brush or the leaves that were on top of that metal grate that had to be lifted up in order to get into the window. So that is kind of like obvious. Well, there was nobody there to disturb those.
So there was a broken window on the top of the window there, and they said that like that was previously broken because it was broken on the inside, like the inside of the window, and not from the outside. Because if there was broken from the outside, it would have been glass on the ground, but they didn't find any pieces of glass on the ground.
But there was a theory that it was said that it had been broken earlier. Like it was broken like a week or weeks earlier when John had to get into the house because he locked himself out or something. That's what he said. So it could have been cleaned up like before the actual night.
That's true.
But like the window itself hadn't been fixed. And yeah, like Katie was saying, like there was the foliage that like wasn't disturbed inside that grate. It was kind of like a weird like grate. You lift it up and you can like stand inside of it and then like kneel down to get into the window. But like none of the leaves or anything were disturbed around that, which is obviously if someone's like stepping through there and going through there, it would have to be like disturbed in some way, would it not?
Yeah, it would have easily been disturbed that way, and there also would have been foliage like on the basement floor as well, because you can't. It's going to be a messy situation, obviously.
I don't know what the weather's like in Boulder, Colorado in December, but like, would it be muddy? Maybe like there would have to be footprints, like dirty footprints or something on the basement floor, like Jennifer said.
Yeah. Okay. So Apparently, like, there would have been snow, but when you look at the crime scene photos, there was actually no snow, like, around back or in the backyard of their house. So there wasn't any, like, footprints in the snow. And also, that Dr. Oz episode that I was talking about, they talked about how there actually was a random footprint that was found in the basement by where JonBenet's body was found. So I guess it was maybe, like, a muddy or, like, dirty kind of floor there. Like, it wasn't completely, like, a finished room in that basement. And they said they did find a footprint of, like, a high-tech boot that they were never able to identify. Like, nobody in JonBenet's family owned those kinds of boots, and everyone that they looked at, they couldn't find a match for that boot. Also, in that room where JonBenet's body was found, they described that there was, like, they found a packing peanut with, like, a styrofoam piece of peanut, and also they found leaves, like a few, like, debris of leaves around where her body was found that matched debris and also other packing peanuts that were actually in that window well. And so they're thinking that that was actually tracked in from the killer coming through that window, which is weird that there's, like, not a trail from the window to that room, but there's just, like, debris in that room. So
but why would he have packing peanuts? Like, what's...
I feel like, because it was, like, a grate, and it was kind of like that window well, so if, like, garbage and stuff kind of got, like, blown in by the wind, it would all have been stuck in that window. So I don't feel like he brought them. They would have just been there. Like, you know how stuff just blows around in the wind? That's what I kind of got from that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And if we're going with the intruder theory, like, if we just say it's an intruder, are we all kind of thinking that it's a male intruder? Like, that would be the consensus. But then, like, the language experts say that the ransom note was definitely done by a female, so that would go against that as well. So that person didn't write the ransom note if it's a male intruder.
But the cobweb on the window would have been disturbed and it was completely intact. So I feel like they wouldn't have come through the window, because they kind of did the demonstration in that documentary that we keep referencing. So, like, and the girl got in the window, and, like, where her hand was positioned to jump down into the basement, that was the same place the cobweb would have been in, and it would have been disturbed if somebody was, especially if it was a male and he was taller, he would have wrecked that cobweb. Especially
if you went in and out of that window. Like, maybe once wouldn't do it, but, like, twice I feel definitely would. Trying to get your whole body through that tiny window.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, obviously, like, in the documentary, they did, like, a replica of this crime scene. So it wasn't the exact window that they went in, but it was, like, very similar. But she, like, barely just fit through. There's no way you're not touching any of that cobweb if you're coming in through that window. And there was no sign of forced entry in any other part of the house. So was it someone who possibly had a key to the home if there is an intruder? Like, they just let themselves in? Because they did have, like, I'm assuming, I know in the CBS documentary, they interview, like, a gardener that worked. I'm not saying it's him, but I'm just saying, like, there were people that were working for them. If there could be, you know, people who had a key to the home, or if there was a door. And there's never any report that there was a door left unlocked. So.
And going back to the broken window, like, maybe, like, since the window was broken for quite some time, the debris could have, like, if it was windy one day, it could have went through the window, and there could have been, like, case of the packing peanuts or, like, the leaves from the wind blowing them in through the hole in the window. So they could have been there for a few days.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that, but that's a good point.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know the exact amount of time that the window was broken for, but I do know, like he said, they hadn't gotten around to fixing it. So it was something that had been broken, like, previous to that day. So even if it was, like, a day or 2 days, 3 days, like, it is December, it's probably going to have, like, some windy weather or, like, wintry weather that's going to blow some shit all up in there.
There was also a specific theory about, like, who they think could have done it, and they call it the Santa theory, because this was, like, the day after Christmas, and there was like a neighborhood, like, Santa guy that would dress up as, like, Santa, and he knew the Ramseys, and he had been to their house a few times, and this was presented in Investigation Discovery: The Untold Truth, which aired in December of 2016. Documentary is, like, a mini series presented by People Magazine Investigates, and this guy's name was Bill McReynolds, and he was 67, and So he was like the neighborhood Santa, and apparently he had promised Jonbenet a special Christmas gift that year. And so they're thinking maybe he came into their house, Jonbenet knew him, and he kind of lured her into the basement. And because some people say that she was sexually assaulted, you know, he did that in the basement. But something weird that they pointed out was 22 years ago to the day, so this was December 26th of 1974, Bill's daughter was 9 years old, and his daughter had actually been kidnapped along with one of his daughter's friends, and they apparently had been forced, his daughter had been forced to watch her friend be sexually assaulted. And 2 years later, Bill's wife wrote a play about a little girl being assaulted, tortured, and killed in a basement. And so like there's like these links, like super coincidental to this Bill guy. But they're saying like him getting through that window is super unlikely, and the DNA didn't match him, so they ruled him out because of that. But that's like a super like odd coincidence that this had happened.
So like,
I never heard of that.
Like that so you're saying it was that Santa guy's daughter that had been killed?
No.
His own daughter?
No, it was the Santa guy's daughter had been kidnapped with a friend, but it didn't mention that they had been killed, but his daughter had been forced to like watch her friend get sexually assaulted by the kidnapper. And then they said like it was his wife that had written a play about a girl being tortured and killed in a basement 2 years later. So yeah, they're saying because he was like 67, there's no way that he could have got in and out of that window, because they're adamant that that's the way the person came in and out of the house. So they ruled him out completely. And it's not like he had any prior criminal record or anything. But yeah, it's just that like coincidence that whole backstory was there.
And on the exact same day too? Exactly
22 years later, exactly. Kind of like
that is weird, super
right?
weird.
Yeah. That is super sketchy.
That's super creepy.
Yeah,
and like there was... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's the only place I've ever like heard that theory come out, was that documentary.
But there's also like they were like well off, and I think they were well known in the community, the Ramseys. So there was like a Christmas video that they had made. It was like a video Christmas card, and it was like a tour of their house, like all decorated up to the nines for Christmas. I don't know if it had been that year, if it was like the previous year, but
they
like
did
there
tours
was also
of their house too.
To the general public.
I don't know. I don't know the details of it, but they were saying like I think maybe it was like Christmas tours, because they did it all up to like the nines. People would come in and they'd give them a tour of their house. And so that's why they were saying like someone who did this could have been a part of those tours, know the layout of the house. And there's also a theory that somebody like hid in a spare bedroom until everybody went to sleep. And so he was already in there. Like that's another theory because of these
But
weird
he still would have had to
tours.
get in though.
Yeah, but they're saying like
At some point. Like,
yeah, well, because of the
century.
tours. They did these tours.
Oh.
And they're saying that
and he
during the
hid
tour,
for the
some
tour.
random dude hid in the spare bedroom and then just came out, but he knew the layout of the house already, so he could like, yeah, he knew his way
God, it
around.
reminds me of like the Sherman case we were talking about. Like they were doing an open house and like someone could have possibly hid in there.
Yeah.
And like, that is so creepy. Because it was also like a pretty big house, so it is possible they could just be in a spare bedroom somewhere and no one would even go in there and know or see the person.
There was also another theory that came across when I was doing my research earlier, and the Boulder police ruled it out pretty quickly. It was back in January of 2019. The headline says, "Pedophile confesses to killing Jonbenet Ramsey in letters to friend." It's this guy named Gary Oliva, and he wrote a letter to his friend Michael Vale, and he was completely obsessed with Jonbenet, had like over 300 and some pictures of her or relating to her, and 19 of them were of her like autopsy photos. I'm not sure how we got a hold of those. But yeah, the Boulder police ruled him out because there wasn't enough DNA evidence against him. Again, I don't know how he would have gotten into the house and how he would have got, into a room and hid in there or got in through the basement window or whatever. But definitely a really creepy theory, that's for sure.
Yeah, and didn't they say like, I think I read that article as well, and it said that he had actually attended the vigil that they held like shortly after her death or something. There was like a candlelight vigil or something, and he was actually in attendance for that because he was just so totally obsessed with her and fascinated. Like, and he's obviously like, he's a pedophile, like he's in jail for pedophilia. So I mean, just being obsessed with her in general is creepy, but the fact that he's also like a registered sex offender is super creepy. And why would he? But also when I read that and I was like, well, why would he confess? I mean, I guess you get false confessions all the time, but I was like, why would he confess to this thing if he had nothing to do with it? But then I'm like, well, maybe in his own sick mind, like he wants to be connected with her. So in his mind, like his obsession is like, well, if I'm the one who killed her and I'm the one who did this to her, like that's my connection with her and I will stay connected with her through that or something.
Well, we know for a fact that it's not the first false confession because of the whole John Mark Carr thing as well.
Yeah, in this case as well too, right? Because he also confessed to doing it like earlier than
exactly.
that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like all these people like coming out of the woodwork, like confessing to do it. And maybe because it's such a well-known case that like people just want notoriety or something.
Going back to the article that Jennifer was just saying, there's like a part in the letter of that article where he's talking about like, he's like, I've never loved anyone like I did Jonbenet, and yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half and I watched her die. Like those are the words he wrote in that letter. So like maybe he was obsessed with her, and like what AJ said, he just wants to be part of it. But those are some pretty bold statements there.
But like, and those are all like detailed. Like this confession obviously came up way after, so like that's not information that no one would know. So that's like information that's out there. So like she had the skull fracture, so it is possible that like anyone could just like make up this. Like if someone had come up with like details that only a select few people would know, then it's like much more credible. But for anyone to just say, oh yeah, like I killed her this way, as long as they know like the basic evidence in the case, like they can make up any scenario.
But also in that letter, that like that article that about the pedophile, it does say like a longtime suspect in the 1996 murder of Jonbenet. So I don't know if like he was he must have been a suspect back then, and now he's just supposedly confessing.
Like he lived in the area, right? Like or around.
I think yeah.
And I read that there was like a large or surprisingly large number of registered sex offenders that lived in like their city or like in the neighborhood around theirs or something. So I don't know the exact number, so I'm not going to say because I don't know, but there was also that thing going on too where it's like if you're looking at all these possible people, it could be any one of those, and I guess he was one of those people on that list.
Disgusting.
It's so gross. Apparently there's a thing where like people say like if you like look up the ones in your neighborhood, there's multiple.
Yeah,
people don't really know who's like living around them, so it's fucking.
Yeah, if I look up like in my if I've never done it, and I'm not going to because that would just creep me out. But you can look in each, like I could do it for mine, like Jennifer could do it for hers, like her area, and Katie, you could do it for yours. Like it's any area you can look at the map and it tells you.
Doesn't tell you like names, does it? Or is that like public information that people are?
I think it might.
I don't.
It might depend on like the level of sex offender they are, but I think it definitely tells you their address.
It also says this pedophile, what's his name?
Maybe, I don't know if it does, but I'm thinking it.
What's this guy's name? Oh,
Gary Oliver.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's actually up for parole. He was up for parole last year, 2020. So I don't know if he's out or what, but
yeah,
anyways.
I don't think there's been a definitive update since then, but
we're not here to talk about him, but I'm just saying. So if you ever want to know if there's any sex offenders in your area, you can look that up. I don't know why you ever would want to, but
that's so fucking creepy.
Yeah, I definitely want you just to know who's out there. Like, just you know what I mean?
Because that's part of it. Like, if you're on the registry, it's like you give up your right to privacy. Like, people are entitled to know. So maybe it does have their like full name and I don't know. Obviously, I'm just saying, like speculating, but that is a thing. I do like. They say there's like statistics that say like the average number, like if the average person was to look up the number of registered sex offenders in their neighborhood, they probably would be shocked at the number of names that come up. Not to scare everyone out there, but not saying that there's every single, like there's one living next door to you or anything, but it's kind of a creepy statistic. So the fact that they had multiple living in their neighborhood, like.
Sorry, this is just completely off topic, but it's so sketchy when they're like, so-and-so's getting out of jail and they're like high risk to reoffend. So, like, watch out, we're letting them out in your neighborhood. It's like, fuck, like, God. They've done their time, but they'll probably do it again. Could be you.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Could be you. Fuck that. Hide your kids, hide your wife. I'm sorry.
Thank God it's true, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, was there any other, like, evidence or theories about that intruder theory?
Yeah, there's actually like one more thing I want to talk about. Again, this is going back to that Dr. Oz episode, and they were talking to Lou Smith's daughter. And so part of this intruder theory was that they had that suitcase that was like lined up against the wall by the window. So like apparently first of all, they were saying like they were going to use that to get out, like step on it and get out. That's what they did use, they said. But they actually looked inside the suitcase. Apparently there was like a duvet inside the suitcase, and they found fibers from that duvet on Jonbenet's body and on her shirt and on those wrist ligatures and in her body bag. So it was like she was wrapped up in that duvet that was found in that suitcase. And so what they were thinking, and like their theory was that was going to be how they were going to get her body out of the house, was in the suitcase. And they say that they actually put her in the suitcase, but that suitcase wouldn't fit out the window. So for some reason they like took her out of the suitcase and laid her down. So that's super interesting if that's actually like legit.
But like to me, like I'm thinking, why would they have to go out the window? Like they could just go out the door. They're in the house. They can just go up to the main floor, walk out the door, unlock it from the inside. Like, you know?
That's so true though. Like why, if you can't get it out the window, why be like, okay, never mind, I'm just gonna leave her here? Like, right? Like why wouldn't you just go out the door, like you said?
I mean, I guess the same person that would sit down and write a 20-minute ransom note in the home. I guess. Yeah. Yeah, but why just be like, okay, I can't get her out this window, so I'm gonna leave it. Yeah.
You'd think. But I don't know, it's super weird.
But so like the duvet, they don't know who it belonged to. Like it wasn't a duvet from the home. It was. Like, I don't know.
They actually didn't say that. Like it was their suitcase, like that belonged in their house. So I think maybe it was a duvet that was either already in the suitcase or in their house already, maybe. And it just seemed like she was wrapped up in it at one point because she had those fibers all over her from that duvet. But I guess why take her back out of that suitcase if she was already in it, right? And then leave yourself. Like, I don't know. It's a weird theory, but that's just evidence that they put out there.
So they say so she was put into the suitcase. It wouldn't fit through the window. So they took her out of the suitcase, laid her on the ground, then just went out the window themselves.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I know. I think there must have been some other reason. Like, they must have done something else. That's why they put her body in that other room. Because it wasn't even in the same room as the suitcase. So I'm not really sure, but they didn't go into much detail. But that's just kind of what they presented. So that's like, interesting.
It's just like, yeah, that is weird. It's a weird series of events. Especially considering that they could literally just let themselves out through the door on the main floor. Like, just walk out. And obviously, like, if there was no sign of forced entry, like, there was no reports that said that there was an unlocked door in the house. So obviously all the doors must have been locked from the inside. So obviously they didn't do that. He just decided to go through the window. I
always thought the suitcase was there for the intruder to like step up and get out. That's what I thought. When you look at that picture, because there is a picture from that room, you can see the broken window and then like that blue suitcase underneath it. So it looks like it would have been used for like a step up to get out. Because obviously it's much harder to get out that window than it is to get in. So this is just someone who didn't know what they were going to do before they went in. They went in there with zero plan. And just like kind of like were figuring things out as they were in there. That's why I don't buy the whole intruder theory. Because it just seems so like irrational. It just seems so like chaotic. If somebody like, it doesn't seem like somebody just unplanned this and came in and just came into the house and like that's when they decided they were gonna kidnap her and whatever. There was no thought to it. So that's why I don't buy the whole intruder theory thing.
Yeah, and actually now that I'm thinking about it, I think they did mention like the original plan they think was they put her in that suitcase when she was still alive. So they were going to like take her while she was still alive. Cause she was just little, right? So she could like be folded up in that suitcase. And then they couldn't get the suitcase through, so maybe they took her out and that's when they like strangled her with that garrote maybe. And then they decided, well, I can't take her, so I'm just gonna kill her so that they can't identify me or something. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. It's still weird that they wouldn't just go out the fucking door. But yeah. And like, was there a door in the basement?
I don't know.
Like an outside door in the basement? Because you think that would be the most logical thing. You're not going to go all the way back upstairs with her in the suitcase and leave outside the door. I feel like most basements have like a exit door. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
I don't think
I mean, whoever he chose literally the hardest way to get out of that house was through that window again. And obviously that's how he chose to do it, which is like weird in and of itself. But also, so if you believe the intruder theory, so it is the same person who wrote the ransom note was going to kill her. I guess it would make sense if they think that his plan was to take her out through that suitcase. So it would have been a kidnapping. And that ransom note was legit and then just bailed on it after.
Maybe it was a woman and they were like, or it could be a man that was petite enough to like fit through that window without disturbing everything. It was a woman that wrote that note on her pad, right? On that notepad. And then they could get out that window as well if they were like a small little woman.
Do you think it's possible that there's multiple intruders? Like there could have been 2 people or 3 people?
Yeah, there definitely could have been.
Did they ever like interview anybody like from the pageant, like other parents from the pageant or anything like that? Like, because sometimes, you know, like Jonbenet could have won something and like a parent or somebody could got really like upset if their daughter didn't win and like kind of like revenge type thing. I mean, that's far.
Those pageant moms are crazy.
That's far. It's far fetched, but
yeah, it seems extreme. But I mean, it's not like unthinkable.
Like I'm just thinking, like if it was an intruder, like if it was a male intruder, so that's why like the DNA would be on the underwear. But maybe if there was another person involved, that person didn't touch her body at all, didn't do anything. She was maybe the one who wrote the note. If it was a maternal, it could have been a female who wrote the note. They say it was the language was maternal. I believe it was a woman, so she could have been the one writing the note while this other person was doing all that stuff.
But why spend so much time in the house?
Yeah. And also,
you're gonna get caught.
Yeah, and I find it weird that they were already, like, you know, on the main floor writing that note, putting the note on the stairs, but they wouldn't fucking go out the main door. Like, I'm gonna crawl back through this window, you know what I mean? Like, make it harder on myself. Like, why? Like,
yeah, they were already on the main floor. Like, yeah, like, leave the note as the last thing you do.
Right, yeah, have her, like, they have her in that suitcase, carry it out the front door. Like, I don't know. It's super strange.
Why not just get rid of the note? Like, it's the whole ransom note, but she wasn't even kidnapped. She was dead in the basement. So I mean, I guess they were trying to cover it up and like lead them on down a different path, but it just seems like very, very, like if it is an intruder, they didn't know what they were doing. Very unplanned. And like spent probably like hours in that house.
Kind of feels like he just came upon this house, went in, kidnapped her, and killed her, like with no plan at all.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Like super, just like, yeah, chaotic, unplanned, unorganized.
And then I guess, if you believe the intruder theory, then he also fed her pineapple before as well. So it's on the main floor again, like in the kitchen. Like, unless she like, do you think it's possible that they were in the house getting ready, writing the note, and then like she had woken up on her own and like came down, was eating the pineapple, like took a piece of pineapple out of the bowl and then like came across them. You know? That's
true. They could have written that note as the very first thing they did when they got in that house. And then like getting her was like the last thing they were going to do. And
then like she just came down if she was hungry or whatever and then ate the pineapple and then like found or saw them. I mean, they're hanging out in the house right in this letter, so there's a long period of time where anyone could come down and see them.
And if she was like brought into the house before she was sleeping and then she went to bed, she might have gotten up to use the washroom, heard something, go downstairs, or she wet the bed and wanted to go downstairs to like, or get their parents or whatever, and found these 2 dudes writing a ransom note.
Or a female and a male, or one person. I don't know. A small foreign faction. There could have been up like 5 people up in there. Could have been the whole faction. I don't know.
I don't buy the intruder theory. There seems too much time in that house. Nobody's gonna spend 21 minutes plus in that house.
Yeah. Also, that Dr. Oz episode talked about how apparently the neighbors who were like right next door had heard like a really loud scream coming from the basement, and everyone's like, well, why didn't anybody else in the house hear it? But apparently when you look at like the layout of the house, the room that found her in, there was like a pipe that went out from that room and just outside the side of the house in that room, so like the sound would have just went out through that pipe and might not have been heard through the house, because apparently there was like some extent of soundproofing in the basement. So if that's true, she could have screamed down there. Nobody would have heard it because it was soundproof, but that pipe made it easier for the neighbors to hear. Neighbors didn't do anything, but that's just another piece of the puzzle.
I've never heard that neighbor's account ever.
yeah, this is all Dr. Oz. And like I said, he's like doesn't have the best reputation, but he was talking to people that kind of knew what they were talking about. So yeah, take that
Wow.
with a grain of
Well,
salt.
I just find it weird that like if there's neighbors who heard this scream, like that they wouldn't have mentioned it to the police. They choose Dr. Oz. They're gonna go to Dr. Oz to mention it for the first time, exclusive on Dr. Oz. Like I don't know. I'm not saying it's not true, but you know, sometimes people are.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the neighbors where they were talking about it. It was like Dr. Oz talking about it, like that he had heard that. So that, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to ask you guys, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe the intruder theory? If you had to say right now, like what do you think it would be on a scale of 1 to 10 to you? I guess Jennifer can go first.
I would say probably like a 3. It just seems very unlikely in my opinion, honestly.
I'm gonna say about a 4. I'm not buying it, but there's some stuff there that kind of thinks there could be. But to me, I'm just not sold on the intruder theory.
I don't know. I go back and forth. Right now, I'm going to say 4.95.
Oh my god, leave it to you to give the decimal points. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I would say for myself, I would say probably like a 2 or 3. In between that. 2.95, I guess I'll say. 2.5, I don't know. But no, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. It's very... Oh no, like Katie said, I go back and forth, like depending on what documentary I'm watching, like where it's leaned, you know, there's going to be a documentary that's going to present a million points as to why it's an intruder, and I'll be totally convinced. And then I'll watch another one that's like the opposite side, and I'll be totally convinced of that. So, but I would say right now, if I like look at everything objectively, look at that evidence, like it's way too unlikely, I think. And unless it was a really, really stupid person who just did every like stupid thing you could do, then maybe. But anyway, I'll say 3.
Well, if you're a pedophile, you're pretty stupid to begin with, so...
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, maybe a 9. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'll say a 3. I guess the second theory, which I don't even know, this is a theory that came up, but I don't know how much I believe it or how much evidence there is to support it, was that it was the parents that did it, or Patsy specifically. There was a theory I saw that she had wet the bed, and like Patsy was super pissed and like confronted her and like somehow accidentally killed her, and then did all of this other stuff to cover it up. So Jennifer, do you have any opinions on that theory? Like, I know it didn't really cover that at all in like a lot of documentaries, but some do mention it.
I don't know. I just don't feel like there's enough evidence to support that. Like, how mad are you going to get at your child for wetting the bed? I understand it's a frustrating situation to have your child grow up and do that, but you're not going to get so mad at your child for wetting the bed and just like smack them over the head with a baseball bat or something like that. It seems very unlikely in my opinion again.
Yeah, I'm not buying that whole bed wetting thing because like Patsy, to me, she doesn't seem like the type of person that would get super upset for like her 6-year-old peeing the bed. Like, every child goes through the stages. I don't think you should get mad of a child for peeing the bed. It's just something that naturally happens. And I don't think you should get that mad. I don't really buy that theory.
It seems like a stretch.
Okay, yeah, so it definitely is like a frustrating situation, but this theory came up on Dr. Oz as well. And
Katie's favorite person.
So yeah, they were talking about it on Dr. Oz, but they were against this theory because they were talking about how there really was no evidence that she had wet the bed that night. Like, her bed was completely dry, and it looked, I don't know how they could determine this, but it looked like those sheets had been on the bed for a while, so it wasn't like they were fresh, clean sheets. So that theory kind of got like knocked down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't really know how they can tell if there's sheets that are on the bed for how long they're on. Maybe there's some duvet experts or something out there. I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm not buying that theory. It seems like a stretch. It's more like, oh, if she were to do it, like, how can we like craft a scenario where maybe it's possible? But I don't get the sense that like she would have to be some next level like whack to like go to that extreme.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was Dr. Oz, because I did also watch that documentary as well. I'm not like fascinated with it, but I don't know if it was that one or if it was, I think it was ABC News. One of them covered the fact that Patsy woke Jonbenet up in the middle of, not in the middle of the night, but after they got back from their Christmas party at 9 o'clock or 9:30 at night. Patsy woke up Jonbenet almost right after they got home. Like, they put her down to bed at first, and then they woke her up and said they like almost forced her to go to the washroom so she wouldn't wet her bed in the middle of the night. I'm not sure if that was like a not a nightly occurrence, but something that happened every once in a while. And then again, this must be just another theory, but they say that when Jonbenet went back to bed, she wasn't quite tired enough to go back to bed, and then she went downstairs and ate the pineapple, kind of thing. But that doesn't really have anything to do with the bedwetting.
Or like, is it possible that like she was up in the middle of the night getting pineapple and Patsy heard her, got down, and was like pissed that she was awake or something? But like, again, like, it's a kind of a stretch. Like, are we to think that she's that unstable, that she's going to be that freaked out and like annoyed
like,
over that
and
situation?
go to that extreme to like make that garage, like, that's something that I can't get over. Like, a mother like staging that because she first of all, it's a stretch to think that she killed her kid for getting up in the middle of the night or peeing the bed. Like, that's a stretch. And then making that garage, like, that's just like crazy to think that a mother would do that. So I don't think that's a viable theory at all.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe this theory?
I'm gonna go with a 2. It's even less likely of a theory than the intruder one, honestly.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like a 1.
Oh.
0.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you said 2, I was like, oh, that's generous. I'm like at 0. Like, I don't know if I even buy into it even a little bit. Like, I can't even, like, I feel like you'd have to like overlook so much evidence and like overlook so many things to like come to that conclusion. So maybe if you have your blinders on and you don't look at anything.
Yeah, I say 0.00.
Oh my god. Okay. I'll say -1. Since we're doing decimals, I guess we can do negatives too. So then I guess the third theory, which is a popular theory, was that it was Burke who did it. I guess in a fit of anger or rage, accidentally killed her, and then the parents found out and were desperate to cover it up, and then that's where they come up with this whole thing where they're going to try to make it look like kidnapping. And yeah, what do you guys think of that theory?
Like I said in the beginning of this and to this day, I think Burke did it. I think, and it doesn't have to do with the pineapple thing. I think he just got so overwhelmed, doesn't have the much of attention that Jonbenet was getting, because like they said in the documentary that like before Jonbenet was born, Burke was getting like, he would get like a lot of attention from his family and the friends and like relatives and stuff like that, and he was like, he was something that they were someone that they were proud of, and he would get all these like great gifts and stuff like that. But as soon as Jonbenet came around, Patsy kind of like put her focus on her, because she wanted her to become like in the pageants, and she wanted, like, because she was in the pageant, she had somebody that she could like, she was just fond of Jonbenet, and she just wanted her daughter to grow up to be like what she was. So it kind of took the attention away from Burke, and he didn't like that. I think he wanted to be more of like the popular child or the favorite child. But I think in my opinion, I think he did it. I think he just got fed up with her being the center of attention, and just her being around and getting all the attention and everybody focusing all their energy on her. And I think he just got fed up with it, and he had enough. And I'm going to stick to my theory, because I think he did it. Just from the interviews that he's done, even when he was a kid till now. And I don't know, I just feel like he's a weird child. And I feel like that's something he would do.
Just a disclaimer, all the opinions are our own. We have no, obviously we have no, we have no definitive answer for any of this stuff. It's all speculative. We're just going based on the evidence that is here, and we're theorizing based on the evidence. So that's that.
Yeah, and Burke denies any part of it. So, and he's never been charged with anything. So we're just talking.
Yeah, either of you have anything to say about that theory?
Yeah, so I always go back and forth with Burke, because I feel like even when you like, they talk about how Burke, he wasn't super social anyway. Like when their friend was talking, to that CBS documentary, and she had a daughter that was Burke's age, but the daughter ended up like hanging out with Jonbenet most of the time. Just like Burke wasn't like super social, and I feel like he was kind of like to be left, you know, left alone. That's kind of the vibe you get, especially even like in the Dr. Phil interview, like he's very uncomfortable talking, so he doesn't like, it's not like he wants the limelight, so it feels like super weird to be like he wanted to be the center of attention the whole time, because he like feels like he definitely doesn't. So I feel like that's not like a motive. I don't know, maybe he could have done it by accident, like maybe they were like fooling around or something, like maybe she did take his pineapple and he like pushed her around a little bit, or took the flashlight, I don't know, hit her a little bit too hard. I don't know. I don't think he did it for attention, I guess is what I'm trying to say. To like, so the attention would be on him and not her. Because he doesn't feel like that kind of person. Even as an adult, it's not like he wrote a book about it. He doesn't like do interviews. He doesn't like talk about it ever, right? So it's not like that wasn't a motive, I feel.
I mean, her parents wrote a book about it. Just an interesting tidbit, so. But he never did. But yeah, I think if it is like ends up, you know, we think it's Burke, I think it would have been like a heat of the moment thing. I don't think it's going to be a planned like malicious thing. It would have just been like accidentally hit her too hard in the head or something, and then didn't intend to do it. And also in that documentary we reference all the time, they did have like a 9-year-old child similar to Burke's like weight and height, like test with the mannequin to like bash it over the head with the flashlight to see if it's like possible for somebody who's not like has, you know, adult strength to do it. And it was possible. Like the skull did break on the mannequin. So they said like it is possible for that to have happened by a 9-year-old.
But I'm going by the like I know I feel like Burke did it, but I'm also going like to where one of the doctors in that documentary where they said they don't think it was accidental, because you don't hit somebody over the head accidentally that hard. Like if you're gonna hit somebody over the head because they took something from you, you're gonna do it like lightly, but the force that was put upon her head was like an angry like force. So
But sometimes if it's a really heavy object, you don't even realize the force that it is. Like you could put like not much strength into it, but if it's a heavy object and it hits in the right place, and also she's 6 years old, like her skull's probably not fully formed. It's a little like, you know,
I guess
more breakable. I don't want to say more breakable, but you know, easier to like do that.
I guess that makes sense. But like I'm saying, like he had like different parts of his life where he was like would just get angry like out of nowhere and like be very very violent. So I feel like if that's what happened, then I feel like he would have, it wasn't accidental. I don't know. I think he did it. I don't know, like if it's intentional or not intentional. I don't know. I feel like he did it.
Would a 9-year-old make that garrote though? Like that just seems extreme.
I mean, the parents could have made that after the fact.
That's crazy too, though.
So, like,
why would
yeah.
As a parent, why would you do that?
Yeah, and if they're staging this like her death, like that's a huge, violent, horrible way to stage it. Like the fact that to think that they could be capable of doing that.
I think the parents probably could have made the garrote, but if you do a quick Google search of Burke Ramsey, he actually was a Boy Scout for 3 years, like even longer than Jonbenet's actually been in pageants for. So it very could likely that he could do the garrote, although he probably wouldn't know exactly what that was. He was definitely, like as a Boy Scout, you definitely learn how to make knots and all that kind of stuff. So it's possible, but probably not likely.
But also, like if it was someone from inside the house, where'd that other piece of the paintbrush go? Like how did the fact that it's nowhere in the house, nowhere at all? Like if no one left that house.
Could have flushed down the toilet.
John Ramsey left the house for an hour and a half before they found her.
Oh yeah. With a piece of paintbrush in his pocket.
Yeah, maybe he checked those boots out too, where they found that footprint. Like
they never did say the timeline of when she died, right?
Like an exact time?
Yeah.
No.
So
between 5:30 or between 9 p.m. and 5:30 a.m.
So if they say she died before John Ramsey went to bed, he could have had those boots on, and he could have went downstairs, staged her murder or whatever with those boots on, and then left the house the hour and a half that he wasn't there and had thrown the boots out and thrown everything out.
Yeah, and but like they found the other piece of the garrote too. So he took one piece of it and not the other. Like I guess maybe he couldn't find it. But also, one question, because I guess this goes back to the police incompetence. How the fuck do you lose track of someone for an hour and a half? Like, yes, there were people in that house. There were like friends and like other family members. So there's probably a lot going on. But like, you leave like the father of the victim. You let him out of your sight for an hour and a half. No one knows where he goes. Then he shows up. And then they say, Linda Arndt, like that detective says that when he does arrive back after the hour and a half, his demeanor has changed. He's a little bit more agitated after, which I don't know what that means, but.
Yeah, and that investigation discovery like series that I was talking about too, they say that they shuttled like Burke out of the house pretty early on too, so they didn't even have a chance to really talk to him early on because they didn't put him in police custody. It was like John took Burke and like somewhere away from everybody so that he wouldn't have to be involved with everything. So that's like a weird thing to do as well. Like, and they said like putting him in police custody would have been like the safest place for him if they thought that she was kidnapped, like which was what they had still thought at this time. So it's just kind of weird that he like took Burke out of the house and put him somewhere.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, why were they afraid of that Burke was going to say something like incriminating or something?
I don't know. That's it. I think they were just thinking that they're trying to shield him from everything. Like he's still only a kid, just kind of like get him away from the situation, which makes sense.
So take him out into the world, into the yard or street where this potential pedophile / intruder is, and let him. Like that doesn't seem right to me. If they think it was like a intruder or some type of pedophile, you don't only take this child outside so whoever is lurking in the bushes could see him.
And yeah, but also, I mean, if you go with the theory that it was a cover-up by the parents, like it could make sense as to why they would say then that Burke was asleep for hours until the police arrived. It's like they're trying to overcompensate. It's like they know that he was involved, like he was awake this whole time. So they're like, oh, we just need to like say that he was sleeping the whole time, which doesn't really make sense when it's like, why would he be sleeping when there's that many people in the house? There's that much commotion happening. Why would no one have woken him up for hours later? Like it could make sense that like they would overcompensate for that and be like, oh, well, we need to just tell everyone that he was sleeping for hours.
Well, didn't they say that police went into his room? Or his mother went into his room to see if Jonbenet was there? Like, you think that would have woken him up?
I don't know if that happened. I don't know. I feel like there's so many accounts and so many different... I don't really know.
Like, he talked about that in Dr. Phil, I think, that his mom coming in did wake him up, but he didn't get out of bed. He was just awake, like, laying there.
But if you were a curious 9-year-old boy, you would get up and say, "What's going on? Like, why are you looking for my sister?"
Well, I mean, according to according to that 911 tape, he asked, "What did you find?" in the background of the 911 tape at the back. If you believe that,
and if that is what he said, he's like, well, "What did you find?" It's like, I don't know. I feel like okay.
Like that's believable to me. Like that she goes and she finds that she's gone. She calls 911. She's freaking out. That wakes him up. He comes down and then he's saying, "What did you find?" Like if she's saying, "Oh, there's a ransom note here," and she's holding it, she's like, "What did you find?" Like that's like a reasonable thing to ask for a 9-year-old. Like that scenario to me makes sense versus, oh, he slept through all of that. His mother screaming downstairs. Like I guess he does sleep deeply and doesn't hear things, but I don't know.
I definitely believe that he was like forced to say those things in the early police interviews, though. Like when he says, when he's trying to justify that he was laying in bed, he says, I sleep deeply. And it's like, all you had to say was, I stayed in bed instead of having to explain yourself. But I feel like he was almost forced to say that by his parents.
Yeah, it was like he was emphasizing that fact that, I sleep deeply. Like he had to make them like convince him of that. And also when they were showing him the picture of like the pineapple on the counter and he was like avoiding even saying what it was, like he was talking about, oh, that's like that's a glass with a tea bag in it. Like he was completely avoiding that bowl, which is like because he didn't want to talk about it because he knew that was like a trigger maybe.
I was just gonna say that, like that was like my next thing that was coming out of my mouth, because when they were giving him that photo of the pineapple and like his whole demeanor changed when they showed him that picture. Like he got really fidgety, he got very like anxious, he almost like falling off the chair trying to look at the picture. Like his whole like he wasn't calm anymore. He felt like anxious. That's, to me, that was like one of the number one red flags was like they know something. They know something about this pineapple. They know something, like my hand, like whatever. Like
like it's into one point. Like I feel like most of it, he's like laying down on the chair, like it's very nonchalant. And then when they bring up the picture, he's like leaning forward on his knees, like it's weird.
And he's like putting his knees on his hands because he's like so like he's like trying not to shake or like be really fidgety. Like his whole demeanor just changed after they showed him that picture.
And so maybe it's like they didn't account for him to be asked that because they weren't expecting that to be anything. And then when he brought up that picture, then he's like, oh shit, no one told me what to say in this situation. That's why he's avoiding it and he's not saying what it is. I mean, allegedly, it's speculative. Of course, I wasn't there. I don't know. And
then he goes to say, like, before the picture's been shown, like, to say, like, do you have any secrets? He's like, if I had secrets, like, I wouldn't tell you or something like that. Because, like, why would you say something like that? Like, if I had a secret, I'm not going to tell you. Do you know what I mean? When they're talking about, like, if he knew something or something like that.
It's almost like they told him an exact things to say, and then any time that he went off that, it was, like, super sketchy.
Well, I'm also thinking, like, maybe we can combine, like, two of these theories. Like, maybe Burke woke up early and, like, found Jonbenet, and then the parents come down and, like, see him over her body and are like, oh my god, he did something, and they just kind of jump to that conclusion, and they're trying to cover up something that never actually even happened. Like, that is just could be a possibility. And then, you know, they're kind of too far into this now because they made up the whole note and everything. And maybe he actually didn't do it. That's why he never, like, strayed from that. But then his parents are like, well, we think he did do it. We're covering it up. That's a possibility.
Oh, like the intruder plus, like, he finds her body after the intruder?
Yeah, like maybe somebody else did kill her. And then he actually just finds her down there. Parents come, find him, like, over her body or something and just assume that he did it. And then they're covering it up because they think he did it.
Or something, yeah. You never know. I feel like any possibility at this point is fucking crazy.
I really do think it comes all back around to when Burke hit Jonbenet over the head. Not over the head. When he hit her outside with the golf club, that whole thing. That just kind of... I understand, you know, sibling rivalry and, like, picking on each other and stuff like that, but you don't... I don't know. Growing up, I've never been hit with a golf club in the cheek. Like, that's disturbing to me.
Yeah. And, like, if that had happened before, like, and kids sometimes don't know their own strength too, right? Like, he might, you know, that could have been totally an accident. And, like, this one could have totally been an accident too. But yeah, but I agree. When I saw that he, like, that had happened with the golf club, that stuck with me. I was like, oh, interesting. Not to say that makes someone guilty, but it is, like, an interesting fact.
Like, when they were talking to him also about, like, the train track, like, they're like, did you ever play with the train track after Jonbenet had died? He's like, no, not really. We don't really go down there anymore. So it's kind of like, I mean, it could be anything. Like, you could have been, like, because of trauma, you don't want to, like, go down in the room that you found your sister in. But I feel like he didn't really seem too concerned that his sister had died.
Well, in those initial interviews, he even says, I'm getting on with my life. I don't think about it too much. I'm moving on with my life. That's super weird to say.
Even
just
at 9 years old.
Like, that's super weird. I mean, I guess children, like they say in the documentary, children are resilient, so it's not, I don't know. I just found that super odd.
But you can also look at, like, John's reaction too. He never really seemed too upset. He always seemed more calm and collective. He never really seemed, like, too distraught that his daughter was, like, killed. He kind of just, like...
But that kind of goes to things, like, people deal with trauma differently. So some people just, like, completely shut down and, like, they aren't frantic and they're just kind of in this, like, zombie state where they might seem like they have no emotion, but...
And also John already has a daughter that had died previously, so maybe he was, like, able to compose himself better because of that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very... No, go ahead.
They also go on to talk about, like, how the words that Patsy was saying, like, in the CNN... Because they did a CNN interview before they were even interviewed by the police, which is odd to me. But anyways, she was saying, like, we will find you. Like, kind of like this, like, her words were kind of, like, very eerie. Like, it's kind of like she was saying these words, but she already knew who this person was, type of thing. Like, they could...
Yeah. Well, then also their friend, that one friend they interview says that they told all their friends not to go to the media, not to do anything. But then they go on CNN and do, like, a 45-minute interview when they had told all their friends not to, which is, yeah, if you want to avoid media, that's totally fine. But why is it okay for you to go on it and not other people? Like, are you afraid of what they're going to say versus when you know that you can control what you say? I don't know.
Yeah. And this friend of theirs, they're not even friends anymore.
I was going to say, also, before they even talked to the police, apparently they were given all the police reports to do with this case before they were even interviewed. So like they knew what the police knew, they knew like kind of what was happening, and they were apparently like even coached about what would be like the appropriate things to say during interviews. So they like, you know, they had help definitely on their side to keep suspicion off of them for sure.
Yeah, and like I just think if it is them covering up for Burke, it's like, I don't know. I just think like the way that it was staged, like that brutal and violent, and then the ransom note too. Like, how are those the first things that you jump to, and like that's how you're going to stage it? Like, I feel like there'd be so many other ways to. I mean, if he did hit her over the head by accident, and then she had that skull fracture, like you can't reverse that. So like that. But I still think, like, couldn't they just say like, oh, they found her like at the bottom of the stairs, like she fell down the stairs or something, and like hit her head, like. How do they have to stage it as like she's tied up and like choked and all that shit? Like, to me, and the ransom note, like that's I don't know.
Yeah, and they also said like how her hands were tied up, like that was also staged as well, because they said it was like the knots were like 15 centimeters apart, which is like which is like more than a foot apart. So it would have been enough for her to even be able to like take that tape off her mouth if she was still conscious when that happened. And it was like they were long enough for her to be even like take them off herself, and they weren't even that tight. So it was like they had done that after the fact just to make it look like it was more serious than what had actually happened. So that's interesting as well.
And then she was subdued with a stun gun and had no energy, which I don't know if that happens.
But why stage it as like a kidnapping first though?
Yeah, like wouldn't you just
stand?
But because they know, like obviously if they know she's dead, they know that they're gonna find the body, so they have to. Like,
it all goes back to that ransom note.
I mean,
this whole case.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand. Like that ransom note, like I said at the beginning, that ransom note is the number one thing that like makes it doesn't make sense to me. Like, make it make sense. I don't understand it.
I don't like the stun gun theory either. Like when they did that stun gun on that other guy, like the marks didn't look the same at all, and like it was like a rash, kind of like long rash thing, not like two little probes. So like I think
it was like welts.
Yeah. So that stun gun theory, I feel like, is not true at all.
Unless like maybe it turns into that hours later, because they, I'm sure, looked right away after they did it.
But she would have had burn marks or some type of, not burn marks. Well, I guess it would be burn marks because you like electrocuted, right? It's a stun gun.
Looked very unpleasant. Yeah.
Well, whatever it was, not something I want to deal with.
Yeah, but even if it did turn into that afterwards, though, like that guy didn't look. You couldn't see like protrusions on him, right? It was just like a rash kind of thing. Like it wasn't. I don't know why it would turn into 2 marks afterwards. Maybe
that's true.
I don't know.
So it's like more likely that it's like the rail or the
and an intruder is not going to do that. An intruder is not going to like try to find this train track to like stab her with or whatever he did with it. Like whoever this intruder is like this one-time criminal, because like he obviously didn't have done it before.
Yeah, well, there's someone whose DNA is not in the system, has never committed a crime before, has never committed a crime since, because obviously if they committed a crime and were caught, then their DNA would still be in the system. Like, couldn't they match it with that? So it's someone who's never been in the system. Who knows? They could, if it is an intruder, they could be dead by now. It's 25 years ago. But like, I don't know. But I guess there was no DNA. The only DNA is like on her underwear, which they say could be from the manufacturer. So I'm pretty sure that was the only like source of DNA.
Well, and under her fingernails too.
Oh yeah, and under her fingernails too. Yeah, but it didn't match anything. So it's like a one-time criminal who did it once and then never again, and was never caught. Like, and someone who knew John because that knew the number of his Christmas bonus or the amount of his Christmas bonus. Like, it has to be someone who knows him. And not only knows him, but like knows that, because not anyone who knows him would know that information. Like, to me, like his boss.
The dirt under his fingernails, under her fingernails, could have been from like.
It wasn't dirt. It wasn't dirt. It was like
DNA. But it could have been. She could have held hands with somebody at like the pageant, or she could have held hands with like one of their neighbors, like their friends, or her like school teacher, or wherever. Like, it's not conclusive to like. I don't know. I think it was somebody in the house. I'm going to stick to that theory. That's my theory from here on out until it's ever gets solved.
Until further notice.
Yeah.
So, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you guys say about that theory?
I think 9.5.
Very confident.
Yep.
Jennifer, what do you think?
Again, I do go back and forth a lot with this case, but I would say probably close to an 8. I definitely think, like I said, I go back and forth, but I say the most likely situation is that Burke accidentally smacked her over the head with like the flashlight or some other sort of, they say that there was a baseball bat somewhere as well, but he accidentally smacked her over the head with it, causing the trauma because, like you said, a 9-year-old is capable of fracturing a 6-year-old's skull, considering it's not fully developed yet. And then the parents went and covered up for it because they were afraid that their little boy was going to get, taken off to jail, even though it's 10 and up, that could be potentially charged for a juvenile crime.
And that necessarily wouldn't be something that they would know, right? That it would be 10 and up. So they didn't know that he would even be cleared, potentially.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So, yeah. So, Katie, what about you? Enough of this decimal shit. Give me a real number. I'm just kidding.
Decimals are more real than non-decimals. I guess for the fact that it's a cover-up of some sort, yeah, I'm going to say like it's a 7. I feel like there is, somebody knows more than they're saying, and people are covering it up. That's definitely what's happening, I feel.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
In this Dr. Oz episode, I'm just talking about it because they talked to, there was a retired sheriff there. His name was John Anderson. He was talking on the show, and he was saying that, because like now they can do like genealogy, like genetic genealogy, where they can put DNA into the system and they can figure out like who is related to that person. They can kind of find like this whole tree. So they're like, why don't they just do that? This costs a lot of money, but apparently they had set up like a GoFundMe account to have this DNA tested. But in order for that to happen, they need like cooperation from the police department because they're the ones that actually have the DNA in their possession. But the police department isn't like cooperating. They don't want to go through with this process, even though it'd be paid for by an outside party. So it just makes me think like they're just kind of like happy where the case is now. They don't want it to go any further for some reason. So it's just
they don't want it to go any further because they don't want to know how fucked up they did. They fucked up the case back in the day. That's why they don't want any other information coming out because it proved them wrong how very poorly they handled the case.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but there's just so much DNA potential now. Like there's ways they could figure out who that DNA is from, and they could even like rule out if it was like some foreign worker for the underwear, for one thing, right? And like who that DNA under the nails was, like maybe it was another kid or something.
Yeah,
that she was playing with. I don't know. I think they should just do it. Just find it out.
Yeah, that's true. And it's just so frustrating that it's like there is a possibility that it could be solved if they were to like put the resources towards that kind of thing. But I guess the further away from it gets, like the less of a priority it becomes, really, which is annoying.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if a case like this had happened in like 2016 versus 1996, like who knows what could have been different, because like, the DNA could have been tested immediately and like could have been better technology that could have actually found something that the technology back then didn't.
There's so many cases like this, like so many unsolved.
There's none like this. Unique.
No, but I mean like unsolved murder cases of like and not just children, but anything like where the initial investigation was so poorly done that nothing ever comes of it because it was just, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many unsolved cases that need to be solved. But this one definitely needs to be solved because it's messed up.
I also thought that maybe because, like, if more evidence did come out, like John Ramsey, the father, could still be like convicted of murder, right? If stuff came out, I'm thinking like maybe Burke can't be convicted because he was under 10. So even if he came forward, like he wouldn't be able to be charged. So maybe he's waiting for like, because his mom's already dead, maybe he's waiting for like his father to die before he comes forward with actual things that he knows, because then his parents can't be charged with anything and everyone's in the clear.
That's true. Allegedly, or
Yeah,
just
if he knows anything.
Yeah.
That's just something that could be a possibility, but yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm at about like an 8 for that theory, because I think it's definitely I think there's the most evidence, but obviously there's so many different pieces of evidence that there's always like things that go against that, but I think there's way more things that like point to that versus not. So I'm like at an 8, I would say. But yeah, we do have some listener opinions or theories, because we asked for some on our Instagram page because we wanted to know, because this is such a well-known case, so we figured people out there have to have an opinion of their own. And a lot of them do kind of go in line with one of those 3 theories. But we have Laura, whose Instagram name L.Rod. She says, yeah, her brother totally did it and his parents are covering for him. And then she says, I should say I don't know this for a fact, but it's just my theory. So that's definitely, that's a popular theory. I'm sure many people think that. We do have somebody named David Cross, who just said, I think it's pretty obvious that her brother committed this and the parents are somehow involved in the cover-up of that. And again, he says it's just a theory, but I have no authority to ever back that up with. So we have that. We also have Amy gave us some opinions. Her Instagram name is angel_card_Amy, or Angel Card Amy. Shout out to Amy. But yeah, she did say she's actually familiar with the Burke Ramsey interview with Dr. Phil. And she says, when I watched the Dr. Phil episode, I feel like they were covering up for the brother. It's pretty crazy. Such a sad story. One. And then we do have another one from... This one's a good one. So we have a listener all the way from Poland, which is exciting. And she recently reached out about this case. So she said... So wait, it's Anna, and her Instagram name is Knife in Heart. And she says, I don't really have a theory, or not an original one at least. For a long time I was convinced the brother had accidentally killed her and the parents covered up for him. But now, as far as I'm concerned, it depends on whether there was a sexual assault or not. She said, I've listened to some contradicting podcasts stating either there was an assault or not. So if there wasn't an assault, I believe the brother was responsible for her death and the parents for the cover-up, unless the assault actually did happen. And in this case, although I believe they could have staged the crime, like bounding her, putting duct tape over her mouth, etc., I don't believe they'd be capable as her parents of sexually assaulting her with a paintbrush. And then she says, P.S. I just discovered your podcast and I'm binging all the episodes. I started with the one on Adnan Syed and really loved your take on the case. Looking forward to more episodes. So thank you, Anna, for that. She also says, sorry, one more thing. If there was an intruder, I believe it wouldn't be a random person, but someone who knew her from her beauty pageant, some crazy stalker obsessed with her. What throws me off is the infamous ransom letter. I just can't imagine anyone, meaning the intruder, writing it in the house, unless it's some kind of person with mental health issues, which would fit in some way, as the whole letter is quite cinematic. So maybe the person was thinking that they're reenacting some movie plot. I don't know, but this case is crazy. That's that. So most people have one of those 3 theories. I feel like there's not really going to be another theory that you're just going to see. It's definitely one of those 3, but it's such a crazy case. And thank you for our listeners' suggestions. We're very excited that people responded. People are listening, so thank you. Yeah, anyone have any final thoughts or opinions about this case?
I hope we find some new information soon, or sometime in the next decade about this case, and hopefully can come to a conclusion and be done and end, and we find out who did it. So her family, and most importantly, Jonbenet, can have some justice, because no one deserves to die like the way she did. No one should deserve to die anyways, but just a sick, poor little 6-year-old girl. I don't know. I hate crimes that are unsolved. Bothers me too much. There has to be something out there that somebody knows, because...
And it's just frustrating because, like I said, the further away from it you get, the less likely it is it'll be solved. Just, people are dying, witnesses are dying, and, just it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and also there's new murders that are happening that take priority over a 2-decade-old case, I guess, sadly. But that's the reality.
And just thinking, she would be 31 years old right now. She was still alive, so... Who knows where she could have been or what she could have been doing. So it's sad. Jennifer, do you have any final thoughts about the case overall?
Definitely one of the most bizarre unsolved cases that is in our criminal history as of today. But yeah, I really hope she does get justice soon. The poor girl, honestly. And yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Jonbenet Ramsey case. I mean, even though we've already recorded the episode, you still send us your theories and thoughts because we still want to know what you guys are thinking. Send us some feedback about the episode or the podcast in general. But this is our final episode of this season, so we will be going on a brief hiatus, but we are not going to stop working. We still have lots of cases that we're researching, and we're going to be recording over the break, and we're going to be premiering season 2 in September. So that will be very exciting. And yeah, what do you guys think about our first season? I'm happy that we got here.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited how far we've come and like how much response we've got back from our listeners and people downloading the thing. It's just kind of pretty cool to see, like, because you never know how these things are going to start out. Like, we never thought like we'd be like as far as we are now, but I think it's pretty cool, and it's fun to look up some cases and get really enthralled in some of the most bizarre cases. So season 2 should be awesome.
Yeah. And like, you never really know, right? When you start out, like, you might hate doing it. You might like fall off after 2-3 episodes, whatever. But obviously we're still here after this is our 20th episode. We're still here. And currently, as of this recording, we have over 3,300 downloads of the podcast. So we're very, very excited. In May, we had our highest number of monthly downloads. We had over 1,200 in just May alone. And we're on track to meet that or exceed that in June. So we're very excited. And we thank you. And one of our most loyal listeners is actually with us right now. Jennifer has listened to every episode every Wednesday, because we release episodes every Wednesday. And she always will like message me. She'll be like, oh my God, this case is crazy. And like, oh my God. And it's always like on Wednesday. So some of those downloads are from Jennifer herself, so we're very excited. We hope you'll also we also hope you will download this one as well, even though you're in it and you know about it. But just give us that time.
Obviously. I want everybody know about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear like the final version.
Yeah. See what makes the cut, what doesn't. No, I'm just kidding. We don't edit out that much. We keep it real for the most part. Yeah. So. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, so anyway, I just want to say thanks to all the fans, and especially people that comment, and loyal listeners like Jennifer. And yeah, so we're super excited for season 2, and I just want to say that like it was a lot more work than I think we were expecting. Just remember that we like research and we record and we edit, and all of our social media is all done by just us. So it's a lot of work, and we really appreciate all the support. So see you next season.
Yeah, so just a reminder, be kind to us. It is a one-man band or a 3-person band. We're doing it all ourselves. Like, no one helps. We don't have like a researcher that helps us or an editor. It's all ourselves. So we try to bring you the best episodes and quality we can.
Yeah, and we're doing it in our spare time. So when we're not busy with our own lives and our own jobs, this is what we're doing on the side. So
yeah, and we definitely even appreciate like criticism or like comments to help improve. We especially appreciate it when it's in private and you private message us rather than, 1-star rating and a fucking blast on Apple Podcasts. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And also, or like a comment on Facebook saying, I had dry mouth. So thank you so much. I'm very thirsty and I'm keeping my mouth very watery and not dry for you, JB. So always forever. Season 2, I will get a bigger water bottle and have even more water just for you. So thank you so much. We do appreciate that.
Yeah, but we definitely do like the comments just so we can like keep improving.
Yeah, of course. We always want feedback. Constructive feedback is the best. If you can word it in a way that's like not...
Don't be rude.
Yeah. But be honest. If you tell us what you don't like, tell us what you want to improve. Because like I said, we're new to this. We just started we premiered in March, like what we started in February, like doing it all. So we're literally like less than 6 months in. So be kind.
You guys are killing it. Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Don't be rude, but keep it thirsty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, stay thirsty, folks.
Stay thirsty forever and for always. That's our motto. It's going to get on a t-shirt someday. Maybe with an increased budget in season 2, we can get t-shirts with that printed on it. Or maybe we'll blow up, hashtag liable for all of our Apple Podcast reviewer. We thank you still for that. Although I doubt she's listening. She probably dropped off after that one episode.
Who is that? I don't even remember that.
She did say we're the worst podcast she ever heard. So shout out to
really?
you.
Shout out to you. Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone who is listening and commenting. And yes, we appreciate the support. But yeah, we'll be back for season 2. So you can find us on Instagram, as always, at Crime Family Podcast. We are on Twitter at Crime Family Pod 1. And we're on Facebook, Crime Family Podcast. And you can email us with your case suggestions for season 2 at crimefamilypodcast@gmail.com. And our music is done by the awesome Tim Monis. I haven't said that in a while, but thought I should do it since it's the last episode of the season. But yes, you can follow him on Instagram at Tim Monis. He does awesome music, and he did our music. So we thank you for that. We thank Jennifer for coming on and giving her lovely opinions and thoughts about this case. We're very excited that we have an extra new voice for the listeners to listen to. So thank you, Jennifer, for that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so that's it, folks. Stay tuned for, case updates over the summer. I'm sure there will be some. We'll post it on our Instagram or our social media accounts. And we'll come at you with a trailer probably for season 2 at some point, and then season 2 in September. So thank you, and peace out.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.